Hello, it's Phillip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London, and this morning I'm looking at a book that's come to us from TOLLEY'S LexisNexis. This book is one in the series that they have produced on taxation titles, and they relaunched this particular group of titles in 2010, and we're very grateful to them for doing so. The book that we've actually got that we're looking at today is TOLLEY'S Capital Gains Tax 2014 to 15, and it's this book here. Let me show it to you. There's the front of it, the spine, and then the back. It's been written by Kevin Walton, who's probably known to many of you. It's fully in cross-reference to Simon's Taxes, the leading work, and it's endorsed by the Association of Taxation Technicians. We think that's rather a nice title for them. Now, the index at the back is very detailed. It's very much in the style of, if you like, Halsbury's. It's the house style for Lexis, but I found it extremely helpful to go through because you do need to know your way around the index so you can find things pretty quickly. You've got a table of statutory instruments and statutes again at the back, and a shorter table of cases, and of course the statutes themselves there. Now, the actual book itself, let me give you some examples of what we've got in it. You've got paragraph numbering at the sides. You can see the paragraph numbering there. You've got some shaded areas which give you some idea of how to compute some of the actual figure work if you're actually doing that as part and parcel of any case you have. Probably more relevant to accountants than barristers. This is the Anti-Avoidance chapter, chapter 4. You see you have a chapter heading at the front to find things reasonably quickly, and obviously you move on from there. And what you've got, specific legislation, it's covered there for instance. Then when you're looking at that, it runs all the way through. There are lots of references throughout to Simon's Taxes, which is quite helpful. You've also got something else which I think is quite helpful in terms effectively of a conclusion, and that is key points, which are at the back of most of the chapters, not all of them, but most of them. Now that's the front page of it there. You've got the annual rates of tax listed on the inside front cover, quite helpful. The back cover has a little bit of advertising, just get that in for Lexis. Now what we do have is this, about this book. Now it's important to read this particular page because it will tell you what has changed in the book and what's relevant. There's also consolidation of tax enactments, which is helpful. Then you've got the contents, which is there, running through quite nicely, A to Z of contents all the way through. Then you've got something which I again find very helpful. It's the actual abbreviations and references. Very helpful because we all have that little blind spot occasionally where you might need to say, well, what does that mean? I can't suddenly remember. So it's quite useful to kick off with the introduction, basic principles of CGT, and then it runs all the way through. There are no footnotes because you've got it all in the body copy. It runs to something approaching 1600 pages, something like that. Now, Kevin has done a really first-class job with this book. I'd like to thank him and the team very much for doing so. We do rely on this work. It gives us a great deal of assistance as practitioners, and it helps us because this is where the law is to be found. And as you know, ignorance of the law is no excuse, but it's really trying to find the stuff that's the biggest single problem, and this is where this actually helps us immensely. Now, my wife Elizabeth and I have written a review of this book, and we've given it the title, A Reliable and Time-Saving Approach to the Law and Practice Relating to Capital Gains Tax. And this is what we say. Like all TOLLEY'S tax annuals, that's within the taxation title series, TOLLEY'S Capital Gains Tax for the financial year 2014-15 is purpose designed to meet the everyday needs of the busy practitioner. Well established and highly regarded for reliability and accuracy, it is an annual publication now and therefore always up to date, and it deals fully and comprehensively with all pertinent aspects of CGT, which, as the introduction points out, quote, is charged on the chargeable gains made by individuals, personal representatives and trustees on the disposal of assets. Now, this publication was produced and actually published itself physically in the bookshops in July 2014. I'm recording this review in December 2014 after the annual statement. Not a great deal has changed, and we're not expecting any further big legislation now until after the general election in May 2015. But the new edition here, this one, includes full coverage of the Finance Act 2014, which is the last main piece of legislation in this Parliament, as well as informed commentary on all additional developments that have emerged since the last edition. The subject areas covered, over 70 of them, are conveniently listed alphabetically, as I showed you from the contents, and the range that they cover include annual rates and exemptions through to alternative financial arrangements and anti-avoidance. Don't avoid reading that, that's chapter 4, which I showed you earlier, through to time limits, venture capital trusts and wasting assets. The considerable amount of new material in this volume includes the new exemption for certain disposals of shares to employee ownership trusts, social investment relief, and changes to the private residence relief rules. Other reliefs available for investments in qualifying social enterprises are examined, and there is explanatory material on the European Union Basic Payment Scheme payments to assets which qualify for rollover relief. Other relevant materials, as at the 1st of July 2014, include court cases, tribunal decisions, press releases and statements of practice. That includes also, of course, HMRC briefs and other publications. So it's a fairly rounded publication, I think you could fairly say. And within the 1600 or so pages, the book contains any number of time-saving features aimed at helping you, the practitioner, analyse material, look up things more easily and complete tasks more quickly. And as I've said, the index in particular I've found helpful because it's very similar to the structure for Halsbury, and if you're used to that type of legal research, that will come to you quite quickly. And it is really a technique of understanding how to use these books. And once you're there, they're pretty easy to get through and you know what you're looking for. There is an extensive cross-referencing which I found helpful too between chapters. The paragraphs are numbered throughout and there are boxed shaded sections containing practical examples. That's the actual calculations themselves, illustrating the effects of the legislation on day-to-day work. So advisors, I think, will find that helpful too. Other additionally helpful features include the contents list at the front, which is the A to Z bit, and the introductory comments at the beginning of each chapter. Then the boxed key points section, which is the conclusions, if you like, at the back, and the table of cases, statutes and statutory instruments, which are immediately next to the index, will be extremely helpful for anyone. Although do remember that they're at the back, not at the front, which is where they normally are to be found in most publications. And typical of the utility and value of TOLLEY'S tax annuals in general, this volume gives you the benefit of helpful insights from other tax practitioners. And bearing in mind the increase in anti-avoidance legislation and the theme that this government is running, and I'm sure that's going to continue, there are some somewhat lengthy lists of new developments taking place. So it's a current and authoritative content which this work offers you as reference on capital gains tax, and I think it makes it an essential purchase that every tax practitioner's desks should have. I'm very pleased with this. I've said it with the other titles that we're very lucky to have these books. That's the front, the spine and the back again, just to remind you. It's not that heavy, it's a paperback. The paper is nice and tough, so it shouldn't tear too easily. There's the index again. And then the cases you can see here. There aren't that many, but they're quite useful. Then if we go into the body of the publication, again, as I said, the paragraph numbering, just to refresh your memory as to how to find things. The paragraphing, of course, is referred to in the index at the back. So when you've got the actual subject you're looking for. You don't go to a page number, you go to a paragraph number. And again, as I say, from a legal research point of view, that's quite helpful. Then, as I said, I just will repeat it. You've got the front inside cover with the easy to look at a glance annual rates of tax, and then do read about this book. Thank you to Kevin Walton. Thank you to Tolley LexisNexis. We are really grateful to you for producing these works for us. It's not the easiest subject matter in the world to deal with or to understand. I certainly found it difficult doing this work when I was a student. I fortunately don't have that much to do in practice, but I do need from time to time to know about the way in which the system operates. So thank you very much to all concerned, and once again, do look out for all of the changes this year, because there'll be another one of these coming along next year. Bye bye for now.